Hi, I'm Jeff Gould, America's Storyteller. I write books, give keynotes, do workshops. I do a lot of things all based around story. And I'm going to help you in these videos, help you find your story, live your story, and then share your story. Very important. Let's give you a great example. This is a problem we hear. My 16-year-old is driving me crazy. Okay. We're going to talk in this short video about the history of the teenager, why almost all 16-year-olds in our culture struggle with this, why almost all parents of 16-year-olds in our culture struggle with this, and three suggestions to help. Okay, won't take very long. Let's go to the story map. All right, here we go. This is a sigmoid curve. Okay. And this represents the lifespan of everybody in every industry. We struggle and then we get going and then we start to drop off. You see this in plant life, you see this in life, you see this in people. And so let's use the story acronym to help out with that. So, first, we are struggling to figure out where we're going, and then we're getting our team together, and then we're starting our odyssey. And then we're realizing that this particular story is going to have to end. And then we start to yearn for what that next story is. Now, the story of a 16-year-old is different from culture to culture, and it's changed in our own country about a little more than 100 years ago. Because more than 100 years ago, you were an adult at about the age of 14. You finished eighth grade, you were out in the workforce, you were an adult. Then came high school and more education. Then came disposable incomes, kids getting allowances, and now they were their own demographic. And now they were teenagers. Teenager is a fairly new phenomenon. But let's look and see how they fit in on this sigmoid curve. So they were in kindergarten and they were kind of struggling to find their way. And then they got their teams together. That'd be their friends. That'd be, of course, their family. And then they start their odyssey. And then they're right about here, right? Because they're 16 years old, they're juniors, perhaps around and about that in college and high school, and they start to see that soon they're going to be done. Now, they know that high school is going to end, but what they don't know is what is the next curve going to be? What about their friends? What about their teams? What about their future? They are really struggling in life because in the first quarter of life, and let me draw a circle here, this would resemble the 4 quarters of life. They're trying to figure out what their purpose is. Oh, can you imagine? You remember this, right? Very, very difficult, very, very stressful. This is why your 16-year-old is a little salty, dismissive, not very nice, because this is weighing on them, whether they realize it or not. So now you know, and don't you also remember? Right. Remember this little free advice. If the old will remember, the young will listen. So as you're talking to this 16-year-old who has given you the business, before you react, remember. Okay. Now, also at this very same time, you are going through your own sigmoid curve. So you also went through school and now you're out in the workforce. So you're done with school and you found your place. And this is you. This is you right here. You're climbing the ladder. You're going. It is busy, busy, busy. And you simply are stretched for time. And you are in this quarter of life. You are now in the second quarter, which is about tending to the plants, tending to the family. This is about relationships. And while you're trying to work this out with workers, you've got this going on at home. And you simply think that you don't have time for this. Okay. This is where many people make a mistake. They assume, well, they're close enough, they'll figure it out. Please, 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 please take the extra time to help them in this part of life. And if for no other reason, just for personal reasons, because you know what happens? It's true, your kids are your responsibility until they're about 18, 20, but they will be part of your life forever. And if they don't turn out well, this will haunt you. And this is about the last chance you get to have a real impact on their life. Okay. So bring energy home, pour into these kids, and here are some three suggestions that I would say would help. First you heard me talk about if the old will remember, the young will listen. That's a quote from Chief Dan George. Also, I have something called the Father's Wisdom program. It's a series of 47 audio lessons. I work together with Jim Riefenberger. It comes with a little book, and there are 5 to 7 minute stories. What I want you to consider is listening to those on your way home to or from work in that commute time. And this will help you reframe that relationship between child and parent. It's designed for about a 10-year-old, but I got to be honest, I get people who commented from all ages because of how it helps them remember and process and start conversations. We're not trying to make this adversarial, as sometimes it can be. We're just trying to have a relationship where we can tell stories. It's pretty simple. You just say, hey, listen to the story. What do you think of this guy? And you don't have to say anything. They just get to listen to me, and then they weigh in, okay? The other thing I want you to consider, where is that? Okay. If they're really, really struggling with where their purpose is in life, get them the Significance Masterclass. This is a fairly expensive purchase, I must say, because it's a 12-week, really in-depth way to help people figure out these transitions. And it can be used at any age. And if you look at these various sigmoid curves, look at these. These happen in all phases of life. This could be you looking at retirement. This could be people who are retired looking at, elder care. This could be about the empty nest. At any given time, about 30 to, a third of Americans are in these sections. Now, not only is that a struggle, it's also an opportunity, because finally you get a chance to see what you were cut out to be, right? You're all made to a purpose. Sometimes this is hard to find. I certainly didn't know it when I was a kid. It took me a long time to figure it out. And that came during these tumultuous times, which are both difficult, but extremely rewarding if you put the right work into it. So that's something to think about. If you're interested, of course, you can reach out to me. I have a lot of these videos. I have one coming up that'll talk about the stories in business. We'll get to that later. In the meantime, live your story, find your story, and share your story. I'm Jeff Gould, America's Storyteller. God bless.